I'm giving you the whole framework today. So grab a pen and paper. You became a coach because you're good at helping people, not because you wanted to close deals and collect money. The best salespeople don't sell. I spent 30 years selling. My first job when I was in school was selling magazine subscriptions on the phone. I developed an 8-step method specifically for female coaches to sell without ever feeling salesy. Real sales is this: someone has a problem, you have the solution, and the conversation is simply connecting those two things. The money is just an energy exchange for the solution. That's it. Step 1, the bridge. Open with curiosity. It's not a pitch. Find common ground. You're not looking for a sale. You're looking for a human connection. I noticed your whatever that you can ask a question about. I find pets are great for this, but it has to be something where you're going to hopefully move this person to a chuckle or a smile before you move on, because then you know that person is actually relaxed with you. Step 2 is the frame. And this is the piece that is so important that so many salespeople, men and women, miss. This is where you're setting up the expectations of the call so that as you move through the other steps, this supports you in moving forward. And it sounds something like this. Thanks for jumping on the call with me today. We have 35 minutes. I want to make sure we leave enough time for any questions you may have, as well as enough space for us to figure out if we're a fit to work together. If I can support you, and if it's a good fit, we'll talk about next steps. Do you still have 35 minutes? Wait for the answer. Do not rush over this part. These 2 steps are going to take maybe 5 minutes, but they do something crucial. They make the other person feel seen and heard. When somebody feels seen, they stop defending and start sharing. That is when the real conversation begins. Step 3 is discovery. This is my favorite part. I'm curious. What made you want to connect today? This will either have your prospect open up or give you a short answer. If it's a short answer, it's going to require a lot more curiosity on your part to get them to open up, because you can't solve a problem if you don't know what it is. Once you hear the problem that needs solving, you're going to have to shift into self-diagnosis. So step 4, we're going to cover more of this off in the next step, which is investment. This may seem out of order to you, but stick with me. The questions you ask here are going to have them discover what it's costing them to have this problem and not solve it. You need to know what they have tried to solve it in the past. You are looking for the details. You want to know how much, how long, time-wise, all of it, because this outlines to them that there is a bigger cost in them chasing their tail. A question might look like, what have you done so far to solve this? This question also tells you their level of commitment to the solution, their budget history, and what didn't work. You are leaning into this because this is what they need to be reminded of. Their initial problem, why they're on this call, why they've spent so much money trying to solve this. Then you have to move them into quantifying the cost of their inaction. So a question might look like, if nothing changes in the next 6 months, what does that look like for your business, your family, your income? This is not a scare tactic. It's honesty. Problems have costs. They need to see the cost before they invest in the solution. Ask them what the solution is worth to them. I also like a question like, if this problem disappeared tomorrow, what would that be worth to you in revenue, in peace of mind, in time? Give them space to answer those in detail. These questions actually do the selling for you. You're not convincing, you're uncovering. By the time you get to step 5, they have already told you the problem is expensive and the solution is valuable to them. You are bringing their awareness to a new problem that they will have if they don't solve this one. Step 5, the clear path. Only now will you introduce your solution. You do not talk about all the things they get. What you talk about are only the things that they need to solve their problem. A very common issue for coaches is explaining the process instead of the outcome. Fair enough. You put a ton of work into your program and you want them to see the value of it. But resist this. It is not important. Let me say that again. It is not important. You do not want to start with explaining all the modules and all the work they will do to get where they want to be. Instead, you want to talk about solutions. Here's an example of how I introduce the sales system, my program, to prospects. I have an 8-step system that teaches all the tools you require to move through a sales process from hello to enrolled. Learning this process will have you closing sales without feeling icky or uncomfortable, without having to push prospects into buying. So that's it. 2 sentences. Our natural inclination is to tell them that the 8 modules are packed with information. They get both videos and worksheets and written materials, or telling them worse yet, they have homework and study buddies. We are tempted to tell them all about the work that we put into the program, and they don't care. That's not important to them. They are looking for results. So stick to outcomes. So this is an interesting part of the strategy for many, because you may or may not have noticed that I have not mentioned the price. I personally hold back on the price until they ask me for it. I could do an entire video just on this one thing. Let me know if this is something you would like to learn more about, because it's an amazing strategy. Now that we've outlined the solution, you want to ask them if there's anything in the way of them moving toward the solution. How I do this is simple, but it's also flexible depending on the type of person I'm talking to and how the call has gone so far. Most commonly, I will say something like, we have identified that this will solve your problem. You have expressed that you have the time and the willingness to get this solved once and for all. Would you agree? Wait for the answer. Next, is there anything in the way of you moving forward today? You must shut up at this point. Our inclination is to start rambling. Don't. You need to stop talking, because to continue to talk would be to bail them out of the discomfort of having to answer this. You need them to sit with the idea that, one, they agreed to the fact that this is a solution, and now you're asking them to commit to the solution. Honestly, there are a million different ways that I say this part, but I always use their words, their statements, their situation to mirror back the solution to them. At this point, some of your prospects will ask for price, but some don't. And that in itself can be a tell. Whatever their response, just know that questions are where your power lies. The more you ask, the closer you get to a yes, or at least a firm answer. So step 6 is all about the dual commitment. Here's where we move forward, regardless of how they've answered any of these questions. I call this the dual commitment because you are going to make agreements about where they are and how both of you are going to handle it. So you may be booking a follow-up call, or agreeing to a payment plan, or just taking a deposit. Whatever you agree to here, right down to a follow-up email, it is imperative that you over-deliver. The next step is 7 next steps. This is about the details for both of you. Here's where you're going to reiterate what's going to happen right at the end of this call. What happens tomorrow? This will depend on where you are in the process from step 6. The thing to keep in mind, whatever next steps are, you both are 100% clear on what happens next. And step 8, I call promises. Did you know that most buyers have remorse or second guess their buying decisions within the first 48 hours? So why that's important to know is so that you know how to prevent this. When you agree on the next steps, it is imperative that you follow through to the exact. Here's where you want to over deliver on what you said you would do. If you said you were following up Tuesday, follow up on Monday. Even if this person was a no or a not right now, I try to make sure they leave with something, either a small free program, a free call. I might refer them to someone for something, whatever it is, new client or not. They are not walking away from my discovery call empty-handed. Their time with me was not wasted. I want them to think of me when they are talking to someone who may be a fit for my program, even if they're not or they can't afford it. So here's your homework. This week, practice. Not a sales call, just a conversation. It could be with anybody. Just try on some more curiosity-based questions. Watch what happens when you start exploring. Then come back to this video, watch it again, take one of the steps and start to implement it on your calls. I suggest step 2 because framing is so awkward when you first start doing it. But after a few bumpy tries, you may be shocked at how natural it begins to feel. I know that for me, it changed my sales game. Download the framework below. It's free, and I've included the outline and some illustrations to help you remember all the steps. I'm April, and selling is servicing. Once you believe that, you'll never feel icky again. Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And turn on that notification bell if you want to be updated weekly when I dive deeper into these steps one at a time.